do me a favor. You give them the ability to unmute their microphones so that it could be a bit interactive, because I would want us to ask questions so that at least we can rub minds together and address specific issues that people are facing. Okay. All right. So I hope we can all hear me. You could just respond. You could just type your response. Okay, beautiful. All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Deji Olatunde. I'm the founder and CEO of Photo Lighthouse, a professional photography company based in Lagos. Before going into photography, I worked as a management consultant for 7 years. The last 4 years was with Accenture, an American-based company. And while I was in Accenture, I was a subject matter expert on costing. So when we had projects, I was in charge of coming up with the costing for the expenses that were going to incur on those projects. Some of them were in millions of dollars. So it was my responsibility to go through, everything that we were going to incur on that project and come up with a costing for it. So that was a reimbursable expense which was sent to the client, and at the end of the day, we were paid back. So it had to be comprehensive. Otherwise, if there was anything that was not covered and the project starts, it's going to be a loss to the company. So I did that in addition to, of course, my other jobs. But it was in the course of doing that that my eyes, were really opened to understand, what it takes, to price for a project. Because there are many things that on a good day would be overlooked, but there were real cost items which added up. One of the projects we did, the reimbursables was $3.5 million. So you should understand. And we had over 100 people on that project. So all the expenses that they incur on a day-to-day basis. All right. So when I started doing my business in 2009, it helped me to understand, because when it comes to pricing, a challenge that most people have is they just fix prices based on what obtains in the market. And that becomes, they start running, and they don't have a full picture of what they are really doing. They don't have a full picture of whether they're making a profit or a loss. They just know that, okay, we need to spend money, there's money and all that, which is very, very wrong. So today we're just going to look at a very, fundamental level, what it takes to price successfully. So before I start, is there anybody who would like to unmute and just let me know how did you come about your pricing? Any bold person in the house? How did you fix your pricing?
So if you would like to do that, just raise your hand and I will unmute you.
No brave person in the house?
Hello.
Yes, let's hear you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yes, I can hear you.
My pricing after calculating the costs that it takes for production and adding extra profit to it. So that's helped me in calculating the total cost of what I will charge a prospective customer.
Sorry, Benga. It looks like my speaker. Sorry, can you just take that again?
Okay, after calculating what it costs me, that's the cost of production.
Okay.
When I added extra profits, then that helped me.
Okay, so you calculated how much the raw materials and cost of production. So what are the things you considered?
I considered everything that I put into it. That's everything it cost me to.
Tell me specifics.
Okay, so I wanted to handle a project for a client. I wanted to help him write a market research report.
Okay.
So I considered what I put into data, what I put into fueling. I considered what I put into research. That's what I spent for transportation. Then I added my sweat to it. That was the extra profit before charging the customer.
Okay. Okay, beautiful. That's fair enough. Anybody else wants to tell us? Thank you, Benga. Anybody else?
Abimbola, please go ahead.
Good evening.
Good evening. We can hear you. Please go
Abimbola.
ahead.
All right. What I did was, for example, I sell one of my products is plantain chips.
Okay.
The cheapest is 50 naira. So what I did, I saw people that have been selling theirs at 50 naira. So I went to the market and I bought raw plantain and I produced it into chips. So out of what I bought, let's say for example a bunch of what I bought, I now did my costing: vegetable oil, gas, nylon, labels, cost of transportation and distribution, and from there I fixed my price.
Okay. Okay. So thank you very much, Abimbola. So we're quite on costs, right? So we'll just discuss now and we'll see, we'll take it a bit deeper, because what we have done is what most people would do at a basic level. And at the end of the day, sometimes we are lucky to hit it right. We are lucky to hit it right following that method. And yeah, so we make profit, but sometimes we might not be fortunate enough. You understand? At the end of the day, you find that we're struggling, and somehow it's like you're doing plenty work and you're not making the desired progress. So I'll just take a definition, of pricing, before we now delve into it. So pricing is a process whereby a business sets the price at which it intends to sell its goods or its services. So it's a process. It is not just an action. It is a series of steps that is taken and to arrive at the price that you set, So it's a very, very critical thing. Most times people just think, okay, you price for profitability, but pricing has diverse functions within the business, right? So first things first, we need to understand that pricing is one of the key things in marketing, right? It's what determines how to a certain extent, it determines how your goods can be perceived or will be perceived by the market. So if it's too expensive, it might be considered, okay, this might be a luxury good, it might be quality. It affects how your brand is perceived. If it is too cheap, it will just be regarded as normal. If it is too expensive and the quality doesn't match up to it, people would not patronize it, So that is another function that pricing has. And it also determines profitability. So it determines whether you're going to be profitable or not. If you price too cheap, it might mean that you might have to sell a lot for you to break even. So it also determines the amount of work that you're going to need to do for you to be profitable, right? So pricing is one of the 4 P's in marketing. And the other 3 P's would be the product, the place, and promotion. So pricing is one of them. And in coming up with your pricing, there are quite a number of things that you need to take into consideration, And before we go into them, I'll just state this. From all these things that we have been doing, from the book that we're reviewing and everything, I hope it's becoming clear that business is something that we need to approach from a very scientific level. And it's not just enough for us to understand our business, but we need to understand it at a very micro level. That is, we need to understand, if we are selling biros, how much does it cost us to produce one biro? What are the things that we need to put into the production of this biro? If we want to sell it, what are the things that are involved? When we understand our business at that level, then we're able to make decisions with accuracy And I think that's one of the things that the, good to great companies have been able to do. So let's, as we are discussing this now, let's have that at the back of our minds. Yeah. So part of the things that we should consider when placing our price. Does anybody want to, if you have suggestions, please. The things that you think we should consider when we want to come up with our pricing. So the two people who spoke, Abimbola and Mr. Adibi, they talked about considering their costs, right? So you're making plantain chips, you consider the cost of transportation, the cost of buying the plantain, labels, the packaging, the cost of distribution. So what else? What else should we consider? Anybody? Okay. So the market where we operate, yes, excellent. Anything else? Anyone else?
Benga, you want to say something? I can see your hands is up.
We should consider the amount the customer is willing to pay.
Okay, consider the amount the customer is willing to pay. Yes, beautiful. Anything else? Okay. Salaries. Okay, yeah. Salaries is under a bigger heading. All right. So, yeah, competitor prices, yes. Customer segments and their purchasing power, yes, beautiful. Okay, so yes, so these are all beautiful things that we have to consider, and they are very correct. So first things first, we must have like some basic knowledge of accounting if we must do our pricing right. Before you can price a product, you have to make sure that you at least know the cost of the product. So I'm just going to do a bit of writing here. Let me position this. I don't know. I hope, let me see. I hope we're able to. So. All right. So, you must have basic knowledge of accounting. And I'm talking about profit and loss account here, right? What are the things that we consider in your basic profit and loss? You have your sales revenue, which sometimes is referred to as turnover, right? From your sales revenue, you take out your cost of goods sold. So that is minus cost of goods sold. And by the time you do the math, when you take cost of goods sold out from the sales revenue, you have what you call your gross profits. Now, before we go further, I'd just like to expatiate on what the cost of goods sold is. The cost of goods sold, these are hello, sorry, can you still hear me, everybody? Okay, beautiful. The cost of goods sold, these are costs that are directly linked to the product that you are selling, right? So for you who is doing plantain chips, your plantain is part of your cost of goods sold. The cost of transportation to the market to go and buy the plantain is part of the cost of goods sold. The gas or electric cooker or firewood that you use to fry it is part of your cost of goods sold. Oil, salt, nylon, the packaging, Those are cost of goods sold. You can directly relate it to what you are billing the customer. For the consultant who was doing the marketing plan, your cost of goods sold, if you had to subscribe to anywhere to get a report, that is linked directly to that project you're doing. Yes, it is cost of goods sold. If you hired an intern to work with you on that, it's cost of goods sold, right? So all those things that you can directly link to the product or the service that you are offering, you would link to the cost of goods sold. So by the time you take out the total sales and how much it costs you to, create that product, package it, and all that, things that are directly related, you have your gross profit. Now, when you have your gross profit, this is not your profit. This is not your profit, right? For you to have been able to successfully deliver in this first part, there are certain things that you needed to do. Things like what? You needed an office space. You may have been working out of your house. Yes, I understand. But it is space that is meant to be paid for at the end of the day, except if it's your house. Do you understand? But there's supposed to be the space you're working out of. Electricity bill. For you to have been able to do your research and everything, you needed to at least have electricity. You need a computer, which you would work on. You needed furniture to sit down on and to work. You needed to have a phone that you used to make phone calls, to talk with people and all that. You needed data. So the subscription that you used, it wasn't only for that project, you used that data. You checked your mails, you did everything. So you can't charge that data directly to that project. You understand? And so other things. So for example, you need to have a vehicle. Let's assume you were not entering Uber for that purpose alone. You had a company vehicle which you are using. It's not directly related. Do you understand? You didn't buy that vehicle for the project alone, or you had the vehicle. If you bought 10,000 naira for it, it wasn't only for that project you used that 10,000 naira for. You used it for other things, right? So here you're going to, calculate your cost of doing business, right? So minus cost of doing business. So let's call this one cost of goods sold, and this one cost of doing business. All right. Now, under cost of doing business, everything that you need to make sure that your business continues to run successfully is put here. The salaries of the staff. So, for example, if here you hired people to fry the plantain, and the moment they were done, you paid them off and they left, you can put on that cost of goods sold. But if you had people who were earning a salary, and frying the plantain is one of the many other things that they do, it's going to come under your cost of doing business. So, yes, most of us have an understanding of this, but many of us do not understand our cost of doing business. So just imagine now, let's put some figures together, right? You are doing, so you rented an apartment, or you're working out of your house. You have a room in your house that is dedicated to your business. You have furniture. Furniture does not last forever. After a while, you have to throw it out, so it depreciates, right? For me, I'll use my own business as an example. I'm a photographer. I take pictures for a living. What are the things I need? Of course, I need studio space, right? I need backgrounds. I need lights. I need cameras. I need lenses. I need flash, memory cards, computer systems, internet, vehicle to transport my equipment from one place to the other. So file cabinets to store stuff. I need external hard drives where I store my my work. Software to edit. Cloud storage where I save my work for backups. Studio management softwares. So these are all costs that I incur. I have a big diesel generator. I have a small one. I have air conditions in every part of the studio, which, is important. It's for the shoots, and these air conditioners have to be serviced. The generator has to be serviced. The car has to be serviced. So all those things are the cost of doing business for me. And I have to find out all those things. So let's assume by the time I added everything and all, let's assume it comes to 1 million naira, right? And from the way things are looking, I'm using this from a service point of view now. We'll talk about goods later, right? From everything I'm doing, I'm only able to work, say, in a year, I'm only able to work, there are 365 days in a year. Let me say 1/3 of the year. So let's say 100 days. Let me just give an example, 100 days, right? So that means every day, right? For every day that I work, for me to remain profitable, I must earn 1 million divided by 100. That should be 10,000 naira. So at least every day that I work, apart from whatever profit it is that I am making from what I sell and all that, I must earn an additional 10,000 naira. So for any day that I work and I am earning less than 10,000, I'm already running at a loss. Please, am I making sense? Could you just indicate, are you understanding me? Are you following me? Okay, cool. Cool, okay, thank you. All right, so for every day that I work, I must make an additional 10,000 naira. Why? Because if no customer comes, I'm still going to pay rent. If no customer comes, we still have to do it. We won't say because there's no customer, we'll go and turn off the light from the meter. No. You incur those costs. Whether customers come or customers don't come, you pay salary. As your Bible will say, they'll say, Ogata, Ogata, Alaru Akwe, or something of that nature. So whether Oga sells or he doesn't sell, the person who is packing load for him, his money must be complete. Your staff don't care. They're interested. All they're interested is at the end of the month, man, give me my salary. So those are costs that you incur. Now, if we are saying, well, so still using photography as a point of view, I did this job. The only things that is going to cost me physically is cost of transportation to and fro, maybe 500 or 1K, right? He wants a frame. It cost me 2K to do the frame. That's 3K. He wants a photo book. It costs me 7K to do the photo book. That is 10K altogether. So if I charge him 20K, I've made a 10K profit. Beautiful. But if my monthly costs come to 400K and I do work every day of the month and I'm making that 10,000 naira profit, in quotes. So 10 times 30, that's 300, right? But my monthly expense is 400 naira. By the time I calculate all those things I listed, how long am I going to be in business for? Definitely not long. I'll have to borrow, to meet up and borrow to meet up. And before I know it, it's not going to make any sense. Do you get? So the basic fundamental for pricing, for you to even do anything that makes sense, for you to begin to even think about pricing, you need to get this right. And don't forget, even after you've gotten the costs of your doing business, there are still other things. After you've gotten this, you take out the cost of doing business. What you get is called your net profit. Right? Now, after you've done net profit, that is when FIRS will come knocking and say, okay, well done, bros. You've done excellently. We've come to collect tax, right? So you take out taxes. And that's when you have what they call net profit after tax. Okay. So that's the foundation. That is the foundation. We must get that right before we can even go further, before we can do anything extra. Do you understand? Are we together? Please, I'd like some feedback. Okay. Cool. All right. So at this point, before we go any further, any questions? Are there any questions you have? If you have, just raise your hand. The admin would unmute you so you can ask before we go on. Okay, beautiful, Gwenga. Any questions, anyone? Okay, so.
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Sorry, I can't hear you. Let me put back my headphones.
Hello, ma. We can't hear you.
I think you're.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, better.
Okay, yes.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. I said in a case where the industry where you belong, there are basically fixed prices and you really don't have the freedom of flexing models with prices. What do you do?
Okay, so we are going to come to that. There are three things you can do in a situation where you don't. Okay, well, no, not three things, but generally there are three things if you want to be profitable. The first thing is you can reduce your costs, right? Because the whole idea of pricing and or doing business in the first place is because you want to make a profit. So if you can reduce your costs, now you may not be able to reduce your direct costs, but you might be able. You use a big diesel generator in your production, and once you come in the morning, you put it on and it runs till evening time. But it's not every time you are producing. You might decide, okay, you know what, let's get a small petrol generator. So the times when we're not producing, or we would even plan our production, you know, so that it's done at certain times when you batch certain things together. So like we used to do, there was a time when we didn't have light. So anytime we're putting on the big gen, maybe we are shooting. During that time, because we're running a home and office were in the same place. During that time when we put on the big gen, that's when we'll do the laundry. That's when we'll do other things that require the big, plant. So it's not a matter of, okay, we finish shooting, then, we need to wash, then we'll put on the gen again and burn diesel. Do you understand? So there are ways that you can reduce your cost, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is, if the pricing is not flexible and there's not much you can do about it, then you might need to increase the quantity that you sell. As long as you are making some form of gross profit, right, on your goods. If your cost of doing business comes to, let's say, 10,000 naira, and for each product you sell, you're making 1 naira as gross profit, and before you are selling 5,000, you might need to look for ways to increase that and sell probably 15,000 for you to be able to overcome your cost of doing business. So those are the two things that you can do, right? But if it's a situation whereby the price is flexible and you can still control things, then you just simply increase your price. Okay, I don't know if that answers your question. Hello, Sotonye?
Hello.
Hello. Yes. Did you hear my explanation?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I hope it answers
He's
your question.
not hearing me. How come he's not?
I can hear you. I can hear you. Okay, I hope it answers your question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It does.
Okay,
Thanks.
beautiful. Thank you. All right, maybe one more question before we proceed.
We can check the chat box. I think there are some questions there.
Okay, someone talked about EBITDA. EBITDA is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, just as Ogule Abimbola has written it. Now, there are certain, I'll have to refresh my accounting knowledge. I studied accounting. So all these things were things that we were taught, you know. Interest, now I'm not sure whether it is interest. I think it's interest that is being paid. You know, yes, you can change over. I think it's interest that is being paid on loans and all stuff. If you have liabilities, right? At the end of the day, you have to pay interest on them and all that, and they are significant. So how much have you earned before you remove those interest that you're going to pay? The taxes, like I mentioned, company income tax, which every company is expected to pay to the Federal Inland Revenue Service. Normally, I think it's between 25 to 30% of whatever profits you make. Then depreciation. When you buy equipment and machinery, over time, this equipment, the value begins to drop. So when you buy a brand new car, it's just enter, turn key and go. You don't even have to check the water. You don't have to check the oil. But as the car begins to get older, it begins to depreciate. And in accounting, it is expected that you make, it is expected that you make provision for that asset, right? So that it's not the one that you wake up one morning and you start the car refuses to start, and it refuses to start, and there's no money anywhere to buy it. You know, I think a lot of us photographers have that challenge. A lot of us photographers have that challenge. You've been snapping with your camera, you're making all the money, you're not putting anything aside. Then one day you click on the shutter and it gives you error. And you discover that you've exhausted the number of shutter releases that your shutter can do. So that's like doing a heart surgery for your camera. And you have to spend like 1.2 million naira to replace that camera, but you have not kept anything aside. So depreciation helps you to do that, right? So what most companies do is that they agree that we're going to use this asset for 2 years, for 3 years, you get? And once they do that, they know that by the end of the 3rd year, we would write off this asset before it begins to give us problem. So if they bought the asset for 3,000 naira and they're depreciating it over 3 years, first year they'll try and keep 1,000, second year 1,000, third year 1,000, right? But there are different ways of doing it. There are different methods. You can either do that fixed amount or you depreciate it by a certain percentage till it comes to the value of the asset in the books come to zero. Now, amortization, on the other hand, right? It is a routine decrease of value of an intangible asset. You understand? So it's an asset that you depreciate, but it's not like a physics. So you have tangible and intangible assets. So something like if you're owing somebody money now, you have a loan. You take out money from that. Maybe somebody invests in your business now, and you're supposed to pay the person back. Amortization is like you taking a certain amount out of the business over time, you know, to sort out that intangible asset, so that by the time you are done, right, when the loan is due, you're not having to start looking for the money. It's already there. Do you get? So just like depreciation is to tangible assets, amortization is to intangible assets. Okay, so someone is asking how do you know how much you're supposed to pay for taxes, right? It's calculated for you. You need to have an accountant to do that, right? A certain percentage and all that. So there are formulas for doing that. All right, so let's quickly move on. Okay, Gwenga, you're welcome. Yeah, so we talked about the things. The first things first is to understand your costing. So once you've now understood your costing, then the other things you need to understand is the marketplace, like someone said, where you are operating. So if you carry Lekki price and you go and use Lekki price in Mushi, you run out of business. Okay, it's 32%. Yeah, sorry. Coming back, Ogunleye Abimbola says it's 32%. Those figures, yes, they are standard, but in coming up with that amount, there are certain deductions which you would make. There are certain that are allowable and some are not allowable. It's good you get a professional to work it out so that you're not paying more than you should pay, right? So there are ways to go about these things that are legal, which are tax, you avoid paying excess instead of, completely just dashing the government money. All right. And they're legal. There's nothing wrong with it. Okay. But like she said, 32%, I'm not very sure of the figure, but I know it's something within the range of 25 to, that's 32. All right. So I was talking about the marketplace. When you're pricing, you need to understand the market. You need to understand your environment where you are operating. What will the market be able to pay? So can somebody tell me, please, what's the price of shawarma on the mainland? Does anybody know the price of shawarma on the mainland?
The one I buy, maybe not I put a lot of stuff in, maybe like 1, 2.
Okay. 1, 2.
I spend averagely 1 to 1.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. So people are saying 800, 500, 1,000, 700, 1,000, 500 to 1.5. Okay, great. Now, yesterday, my wife was like, oh, one shawarma joint, a reputable shawarma joint has opened around us and everything. She was all excited because they had variety and everything. And we went to the place. Normally we buy from Booker Hut, but that's quite a distance from the house. In Booker Hut, I think it's about 1,800. So this new place we went to, my shawarma was 2K, right? If those guys go and open a branch on the mainland and they are saying they want to sell their shawarma for 2K, all their ingredients will spoil. They'll have to eat it themselves. You understand? Yes, 2K. That was how much it was. And in short, that was like the cheapest. That was like the cheapest of all the shawarmas. And the annoying part, the shawarma was very lean. It entered into my mouth without struggle. My wife is like, it's like they measured our mouths, to make this. Do you get? So once you understand your location, you are able to charge accordingly. Somebody was telling me of a story of a woman in Dolphin Estate who was selling some clothing. And just down the road from her, that woman was selling. So she found out what the pricing of that woman was, and she brought her on a bit lower. And she realized that she wasn't making any sales. Instead, she saw people trooping to that other woman's shop. And she was like, what is the problem? So she sent, has that woman reduced her prices? She now sent somebody there to go and price the goods. And she found out that woman increased her price. So she discovered that it's like this price reduction thing will not work. So she decided to increase her price. And she did. And the moment she did, her sales like quadrupled compared to what she was doing before. It was then she understood her market, that people in Dolphin Estates, most of them, they do well. They are doing well. They travel. They have money. They're exposed. So if you're buying a shirt, a Dolce & Gabbana, maybe you go and pack it, you pack all those things on sale, and you now come and sell it at a cheap price here, their perception, because of the kind of people they are, they will feel that this quality of this thing is not good enough. And so what will happen? They would not patronize. But once the price is increased, they begin to feel, okay, this must be a genuine one. And I'm sure many of us will testify to it, that sometimes pricing, if done properly, gives some kind of idea of the quality of what it is we are buying, even though it's not always true, right? But It's just that. So you need to understand the marketplace. You need to understand what the competition is doing. Sometimes we just go into a place, okay, this is how much everybody is selling this thing, and you sell. For goods, yes, most times, if you price above what is obtainable in the market, and there's no additional premium feature that would justify that price differentiation, then there's a problem. Most likely you will not sell, right? But if it is service most times is based on the perceived value of what it is. And many times people can't verify that a service is good, right? Until they have used it. Okay, so the way you price would affect the perception that people would have. That's one. And the second thing is your competition, depending on what you're offering, particularly if you're offering a service. That competition thing, yes, is there, but I don't think that pricing should be the basis for competing, particularly when it is, a service, because you guys are offering things that are not tangible and it's based on perceived value. So if you're able to create that perceived value for people to feel that, okay, yes, what we are getting is truly much more than what the other person is giving, then you're fine. All right. The quality of the product is also another thing. You can't be selling plastic that you can see where the mold stopped. There are some plastics you see like some little, overflow of it, compared to somebody else who is selling plastic that looks like ceramic or looks like glass, and you want to price yours higher than his. It's not going to work. Right? So the quality of the product also affects. And another thing is, if you have very good quality product and you want to put a low price at it, people will not even buy it because they will believe that, no, this thing can be genuine for that price. So there's a science behind this thing. There's a psychology behind it. So it's not just 1 + 1 = 2. No. At the end of the day, yes, there's a science behind it, but there's also the psychological part, which you need to understand. Once you're able to understand what that thing is, then once you're able to understand what that thing is, then you are able to position your product or your service in such a way that you optimize profits. Market condition, sometimes, okay. Market conditions. There are certain times when maybe you're a producer of furniture, and there's a lot of furniture from China, and the government now says no more bringing furniture into the Nigerian market. And let's say 90% of what was being brought in before, what of the furniture being used is imported. The moment that ban takes effect, you are positioned very well. After all the ones that were imported has been exhausted from the market, you're going to be, you would be in business, right? Having an understanding of the market conditions, at that point in time, if you double your prices for the furniture, your people will still buy because they do not have a choice. So understanding what the situation is, right, it would help. Understanding what the current condition in the market is will help. Like the time when tomato was scarce because of the infection, people call it tomato Ebola. If you are selling tin tomato and you doubled your price at that point in time, you would still sell, right? And you cash in at that point in time. At the moment the prices come down, you go back to your normal selling price, but you have made the profit that you need. All right. Amaka, I'll come to you on, you said, what is the premium feature? I'll come to you. Now, another thing you need to consider when you're doing your price is your brand. How are you positioned? How are you branding your business? So imagine you having a very cool joint. Everybody in the area that has something similar to you is selling for 8,000 naira your product, and you decide to sell your own for 5,000 naira. People will come in there, they will price, but they're like, everybody's selling at this price. For this guy to be selling at this price, then it means that maybe his products are not genuine. You get, even though yours might be better than theirs, right? So it's not just about how much am I making, or maybe it's too much or it's too small. No, there is also that part of making sure that your brand, your pricing is consistent with your brand, right? It's very important that your pricing is consistent with your brand. If you place your brand here and you price here, people are going to feel that, there's something wrong. Except the bold guys who would now patronize, and at the end of the day, they'll say that, okay, this thing is good. And maybe as word goes out, gradually sales will increase. But people would accept it with skepticism. If your branding is low and your pricing is here, definitely nobody's going to, patronize you. You're charging a hotel price and your restaurant is looking like a hut. Nobody's going to send you. Nobody's going to patronize you. All right. And now for the last thing, which I feel is very important, particularly for those of us who are small businesses, your financial goal. Your pricing must be able to accommodate your financial goal, right? Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So if somebody tells you a brand new, I don't know which one is the latest iPhone. I'm a Samsung user. So they tell you Samsung Note 9 for 150K. You will look at it, even if it's a genuine iPhone. And maybe that person truly, maybe he's making a 10,000 naira profit. And he's just like, okay, at least if I bring it down that much, instead of making a whole 150,000 naira profit, let me just make 10,000 so I can sell plenty. And most times people will not buy. They will look at it, they'll say, is it genuine? How do I know? This one, they'll say, that guy, he goes steal him. Now Yahoo. You understand? Nobody will buy it. You get, so that is, where the psychology of pricing comes. So now I'm going to talk about financial goals, right? I think I'll go back to the board. Okay. Sorry, let me just drag this closer. Many of us are running our businesses, and that's like the mainstay of our finance, right? So the quality of life that we have most times is directly related to what we're able to get out of our businesses, right? So what does financial goals mean? Financial goals is you doing a rundown of everything that you hope to achieve, right? Everything that you hope to achieve, everything that you want to accomplish, say in the course of the year, okay? So where do I want to live? I want to live in Lekki. I want to drive this kind of car. I want to have a big gen so that if there's no lights, I can have AC blowing me, I want to have a staff who will take care of my child. I want to, you just define the kind of life you want to live, right? I want to go on vacation with my wife and my 2 children. So you calculate how much all those things will cost. So let's say vacation will cost me 2,000 naira, right? Staff salaries, domestic staff salaries, let's say 200. Okay. Domestic staff salaries, 200. Diesel, let's say 50. Rent, let's say 1,500. The school for my kids, school fees, let's say 2,000, right? So let's assume these are all the expenses that I intend to incur in the course of the year. When you add them all together, 4, 5, 750. So that's 5. So don't forget, this is in thousands. So that is 5,750,000, right? And I am a business person. All I do is that business, right? This is the lifestyle that I want to earn. So in addition to all that we had done before, that is the gross earnings, cost of doing business and all. By the time we take everything, we add them together. So let's assume that my cost of doing business is, let's say, an additional 2 million. Or let me say 4,250,000, right? So that brings the total cost to 10 million, right? It brings the total cost of me running my business and me living the quality of life that I want to live. It brings it to 10 million. Now, I look at it, how much am I earning? I'm sorry, how much am I selling my product for? So if, I think I still need to go up to the board. Sorry. If the cost of selling my product, right, is 1,000 naira, that's how much I sell my products, 1,000 naira, right? And no, let's assume I sell it for 1,005, right? And the cost of sales is 500. So that's minus 500. That gives me what? 1,000 naira gross profits at the end of the day, right? So the cost of my lifestyle, the cost of doing business is 10 million. So that means for me to be able to at least, maybe I'm not making a profit, I'm not making a loss, just for me to be able to live the quality of life that I want to live, I have to sell, cancel. I have to sell 10,000 units of that product for me to live that life. All right? I have to sell 10,000 units of that product for me to live that life. At that point, I can now know whether my expectations are real or whether this business that I'm doing is going to be able to finance the lifestyle that I want to live. If it is not able to finance the lifestyle, like we talked about earlier, what are the things you can do? You can look for ways to increase your sales. If there are ways you can increase the price, look for ways to increase the price. But there's a way you can reduce your costs. Look for ways to reduce that cost. And at the end of the day, you'll be able to fulfill that lifestyle. But unfortunately, many of us just go into business. We don't do all these calculations and all. We want to go on summer, but summer will always elude us because we're not making enough money, you know. But when we have all these things in place, then we know how best to position. For some of us, we might be selling maybe meat, raw meat. But if we see that we need to make more money. All you might want to say is, okay, you know what, let's marinate the meat and sell. If you marinate meat, that's value added to it. The price that you can charge, if you spend maybe, you're selling the meat for 1,000 naira, you spend an additional 100 naira to buy pepper and onions and Maggi to put inside that meat. You can sell that meat for 1,500. So you spend 100 naira, but you're able to charge 400 naira extra. You get? So it's important that you have an understanding of all these things so that it forces you to think. It forces you to see how you can expand. It forces you to see how you can grow your business. All right? Now, that is that. Other things that you need to consider when you're doing pricing is how do you distribute your products? For some of us, the cost of distribution is so high, right, that it affects our products directly. So just imagine, fuel is a very practical example. You buy fuel, you offload it at Apapa, you take it and you supply it to Lagos. So you start supplying it to Apapa filling stations. The cost of transportation is almost zero. You can't compare that to people who are still going to ship that fuel all the way down to Maiduguri. So by the time the product gets to Maiduguri, you can imagine how much it's going to sell for. You know, so your distribution, where is the place you're going to be selling this thing? You understand? The quality of the product. So sometimes, you know, when I look at Nigerian designers, people who make clothes, there's certain things that they can do that will just increase the value of their product. For the ladies, most times when you buy clothes, there's one annoying piece of cloth that is a piece of rope that is always sticking out. Sometimes it's sticking out through the back, sometimes under the armpit if you're wearing a short sleeve cloth, right? Ladies in the house, can you please testify? Good. For some of them, you cut that thing off. But what is the work of that thing? That thing is to help you hang your cloth. Because, you know, ladies, you do off shoulder, your cloth is like net and all that. If you hang on the net, the weight of that cloth would disfigure that net over time. So they put those things there. You hardly find any Nigerian designer putting that thing there. I don't know what it is called, but I will refer to it as that thing for the purpose of this class. You understand? So if you put that simple thing there, the value and the perception of your cloth would go from here to here. You understand? Sometimes it might be in the place of finishing. So you're finishing, you are just doing it anyhow and you are charging a certain amount. But you go and learn how to do the invisible finishing such that nobody will be able to see where you stitch the cloth or where the, you know, there are some clothes that you can wear inside out and to still look as if it's normal. And it might cost you an extra 500 naira to do that. But by the time you do that, and you now say, okay, this shirt, you can wear it inside, you can wear it outside, you can double the price of that cloth and people will buy. All right? So the quality of what you are doing, it matters a lot. It's very, 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 very important, right? Quality. For me, my watchword, right, in business is maybe my guiding philosophy is Proverbs 22:29, which says, have you seen a man who is diligent in business? He will stand before kings and not ordinary men, right? So there are three things that I take away from there, which, you know, is foundational to my business. The first is diligence, working at it with all seriousness, continuously improving, you know, not letting there be any loose ends, paying attention to every single detail. Consistency, which is the second thing, doing what we do consistently. If you go to a restaurant today and the food is very on point, you go tomorrow, it's very on point, the next day you go, it's salty. The day after that, you go, it's very on point, the next day you go, it's peppery. The next day you go, food is tasting spoiled. Then the next day you go, the rice is not done. Then after, it's very on point, then it's very on point. Proverbs 22:29, Amaka. You know, so when that happens, you will not, when you're going, it's like a gamble, right? But if there's a place where the food is just okay, but every time you go, it tastes the same way, the tendency is that you go for the just okay guy. Do you understand? Or if you have a doctor who has 100% success rates with treating certain kind of things, and another one who he treats more complex things, but his patients, like maybe 20% die, you prefer to go for the one that has 100% success rates. Even if what is worrying is not what he can treat, you say, just if you try, maybe you'll be able to help me. Do you get? So consistency, very important for any business to succeed. And the last thing is quality. If he says that you stand before kings, that means the quality of what you're producing should be fit for a king, right? And if you're able to keep to those three things, definitely, it's just a matter of time before, you know, pricing. In short, you would command the price, you would give the price, and, you know, people would pay gladly for it. So I'll stop at this point to take questions before we go into, you know, the last part. Okay, Amaka had asked a question before. She was talking about premium features. Now, what is premium? What's the definition of premium? I'm not going to check now, but I mean, does anybody want to help us out? What's the definition of premium? What does premium mean? Anybody in the house? Above normal. Perfect. Beautiful. What was on my mind was extra. You get extra. It has that extra. It is not ordinary. It's extra. It has that extra on top of it, which is above normal. Thanks, Boss Kunle. That's perfect. So if you have a, let me see. For those of us who want to buy cars, yes, added value, beautiful. For those of us who want to buy cars, they'll tell you full options. Full options might be 2 million more expensive than the base one. Now, you know the interesting thing is this. The cost of adding those full options, it might just be 500,000. It might just be 500,000. But people are able to charge an extra 1 million, an extra 2 million because they added those features, right? So that value that is added is what we refer to as premium. And I mean, okay, so Amaka, you asked the question, you're a fashion designer. You know, you sew an ordinary Ankara for somebody, you might collect maybe 1.5 for it. But the moment you put stones on that thing, how much do you charge? You might be able to charge them an additional 5K. Meanwhile, those stones might have cost you just 1.5. The person who put the stones, maybe you're paying her 1,000 naira for every dress she does. So you've made an additional 2,500 naira. Okay, you see, you've made an additional 2,500 naira just because you added an additional feature. Okay, so whatever business it is that you're doing, you can think, what is it that I can do? What is that extra that I can put that would enable me increase the price? I was watching a documentary, you know, all these things that go around on the internet. They were interviewing somebody who once worked in a meat shop. So he was saying that meat, after sometimes it becomes stale and it begins to turn brown. So what are the things they do? They get fresh blood and, you know, they dab the meat in it and all that and to make it look fresh. But the thing that amazed me the most was, he says, when the meat is getting bad and it's beginning to lose its taste, they now marinate it. So they add spices, they add pepper, Maggi, and all that stuff to it. And that's when they'll tell you that it is marinated. And they charge more for it, just like the example I gave earlier, right? They charge more for it. So he says, why? Because there's value added to it. Do you understand? So we need to find out what it is, what that extra is, what that little extra is that we can add that will enable us to charge more. Okay? So, it could also be a bonus, marinated stale meat, yes, but they are charging you more than they will have charged you for fresh meat just because they added, you know, some marination, they added value to it. All right. Now, I hope that we've been able to get something so far. Please, I would like feedback. I hope so far, you know, value has been added. Okay, beautiful, thank you. Now, there are two things that we need to bear in mind, right? There is what we call pricing strategy, and there is what we call pricing tactics. So it's just normal. There's strategy and there's tactics. What's the difference? Strategy is long-term. Tactics is for a particular period in time. So you're talking strategy maybe over a 5-year period. Tactics might just be over a couple of months, a couple of weeks. You understand? So a pricing strategy might be, okay, we want to be premium, want to be price premium. So no matter what happens, our prices are not going to go below this particular amount. So you find out some shops will never do sales. They will never do sales. I understand a brand, I can't remember which brand it was, maybe Burberry or something. They had a lot of stock. You know, at the change of season, when you have a lot of stock, you know, one of the tactics might be, you know what, come, let's just do a sales, slash something by 70% so that people will come and rush it and to go, right? So Burberry, they had a lot of stock. Instead of them to do sales so that they'll clear their store, I understand they burnt all the products. They burnt the products. Why? Because if you go and do sales and it gets into the hands of wrong people, the perception of the good will go down, right? So we need to develop long-term strategies for our pricing. It's very, 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 very important. So how do we want to position? What are the things that we intend to do? Do you understand? How are we going to position ourselves? How are we going to charge? What is it that at the end of the day would, align with the things that we hope to achieve? And generally there are certain kinds of, I'm not going to go into details, I'm just going to, just outline them so that we have an idea, right? There are pricings that we do so that we can keep people busy. So for example, you have a factory, you have 100 workers, because demand is low. The workers are not working effectively. Maybe your pricing at 5 naira. And because of your pricing at 5 naira, people are only demanding 100. Meanwhile, people can produce 300, right? And you say, okay, instead of me operating at 30% capacity, why don't I bring this price down to 4 naira so that the demand can increase? So by the time you bring it down to 4 naira, demand might increase, that the capacity utilization can increase from 30% to maybe 70% or 80% or 90%. Meanwhile, the price drop you did was just 20%. So the volume of what you're selling, would make up for that difference. Okay? Then there are certain times when people price just because they're like, you know what, come, this is how much you want to make, like part of the examples we gave earlier. This is how much you want to make. So let's price to be able to get that. At least we know we sell 10. If you can gradually increase the price of this thing, at least that 10, by the time we sell it, will make 5K, which is what we're looking for, right? So you can do it. The first one is referred to as like an operation-oriented pricing, where it's based on your operations. That is how you price. The second one is revenue-based pricing, revenue-oriented pricing. You want to make a certain amount of revenue. The third is customer-oriented pricing. You size your people up. You look at them and you say, okay, you know what? This person can pay 500. So you charge him 500. The other person, this person can't pay more than 200. You charge him 200 for the same goods, for the same service, right? Then there's the other one called value-based pricing. So the value-based pricing, there are certain things that you try to encourage. So if you're trying to encourage people to read, you tell them, okay, if you buy one book, we'll give you the other at half the price. Or you're trying to encourage family. You say, if you buy, like what airlines do, they'll try to show, okay, we're children friendly. If you buy your tickets, maybe, and you have a child, we can give you for free. Or hotel, you book in, you say, okay, if you lodge in our hotel, we'll charge for the father and the mother, but the room for, or the food for the kids will be free. So it's values that you're trying to extend. You're trying to show that, okay, we are family oriented. We love sorry, I just had a brain fart. You understand? But basically, you're just trying to, whatever it is that you're trying to promote as a business, you tell them, if you buy so and so and you buy a book, you'll get this for free. If you buy so and so and you buy, maybe they're trying to encourage natural hair. If you buy so and so natural hair product, you get this for free. So that's like another form of pricing. Then there's relationship-oriented pricing, where sometimes you price just because you want to establish a relationship. You understand? You price because you want to establish a relationship. And once that is done, so there are certain companies that the price they give Dangote is lower than the price they give any other person in the market. Why? Because they want that relationship. You get, and they'll guarantee him, see, for the next 10 years, if anybody is pricing at this, we'll give you at that. And that way they have locked Dangote in, for a long, long time. Now, there are pricing tactics, which are the things that we talked about, right? Short term. So you have too much inventory. You want to clear it out, bring down your price. You have goods that are expiring soon. you want to clear it out, money, and you want to raise money. You do bonanza, sales, you sell a lot, profit margin reduced, but at least the volume will make up for the amount that you need. And afterwards, you continue. You understand? You can do bundle pricing. So like what HP does, they'll sell you printers at very cheap, ridiculous rates. But it's not the printers they're selling to you, it's the ink that you're going to be using on the printer that they're actually trying to make money from. All right? So they charge the ink at a particular amount, but the printer, they might even give you the printer for free, right? So you might decide to say, okay, fine, we'll give this at a cheap rate, and if you buy it with this, for those other things that you do, you add a bit of premium to it. So by the time people look at it, they'll be like, come, this thing, how much did they sell? This thing, if I buy it alone, is 20K. This people are giving it for 10K. Definitely, I will use ink now. People won't even go and check the price of ink. Most times they'll just buy it because what they are, because of that, because the printer is cheap, right? So they feel that they are making that saving, right? Some people do sales, discounted pricing from time to time. But in all these things that you're doing, right, you also need to pay attention and understand the psychology of people. There's a particular person I subscribe to. He trains, right? It's quite expensive. If I'm going to buy his normally, it should be like $250. Guys, so I wait every year. I wait. Once it's expiring, when the new year comes, I'll renew, right? But if it's not something that he does in a predictable manner, and I have something that I need that training for, I will not wait till Black Friday, right? So you also need to be smart when you're placing this pricing, when you're doing these things. You have to be tactical about it. You have to understand the psyche of people, right? So that you don't price yourself in a way that you suffer loss at the end of the day. Then there are some pricings like some companies, what they do, they'll provide things at very cheap rates. So there might be a particular product that they are providing at a very cheap rate, right? And why are they providing it at a cheap rate? Because they want to attract a lot of people to come into the store. So let's assume people eat bread every day. They are doing fresh, hot, nice bread. And everybody's selling bread at 500. They are selling their own at 300. Of course, everybody will come to buy their bread there. And when you enter that place to buy bread, of course, you won't eat bread alone now. You will eat with egg, you buy tea, then you remember that, oh, my bathing soap has finished. Let me buy bathing soap and everything. So the loss that they are making on the bread, they'll make it on the egg and on the Milo and on the bathing soap and everything. Do you understand? So these are like tactical things that you can do to price and for you to be able to accomplish your goals, right? Some people do, when you subscribe to certain things, maybe like financial service, if you invest money, if you're going to pull out your money before the day you are going to invest it, they'll charge you something, right? That's the tactics you get. So that way it discourages you from pulling out your investments before the time. You get. So all these things are pricing strategy. All right. Then now, how many of us remember when mobile phones first came out? How much was a SIM pack being sold for then? How much was a SIM pack being sold for then? 30K exactly. Yeah, some people got 60K. Yeah. Then it was being sold. SIM card though, SIM card is how much now? 200 naira, Abi? How much is SIM card now? 200 naira. 100 naira, can you imagine? So just imagine that. But that was a pricing strategy. These people had paid so much for the licenses. They had paid so much to put in place the infrastructure is even free. They had paid so much to put in place the infrastructure. So what was their strategy? When we enter into the market, we are going to charge premium for this thing. Before other competitors come in. Before, do you understand? So they put it at 60K. Everybody, oh, it's new. Okay, man, I have SIM card. My level is more than your own. I have SIM card. And that's what they did. They recovered a lot of their money up front. And as other people began to come in, the price began to go down. Then many of us remember there was something they call per minute billing before, right? Where you pick up the phone and you say hello and the thing cuts. Where if God wants to catch you, you flash somebody and the person has fast fingers and he picks it and you cut it. And then it was how much? Maybe 15 naira per minute or 16 naira per minute. That 16 naira has gone. You understand? But Glo decided, you know what? No, let's win people over to our side. So they started doing per second billing. And every other person was forced to follow suit. Do you get? So these are all pricing strategies. They are not just things that are done haphazardly. And there's a lot of thinking that goes into it, right? So sometimes some companies, they do a lot of research, like maybe Google now. Just imagine how much it will have cost them to send a satellite into the space and all that to do their Google Maps and all, right? And how much are they offering? How much are they charging you for their service? A very minute amount. So you wonder how are they going to make it? But they know that, you know what? This our product is good. We'll charge this small amount. You understand? And over time, we'll recover our money as we begin to learn how to become more effective, right? So we're doing it at this price. If we're going to charge at the cost that it is now, it's not going to, nobody's going to be able to afford it. But as we're doing these things and we're developing the technology, we'll get better and better and be able to do more with less. And in the long run, we'll recover our money. We talked about geographical pricing. You charge based on where you are. Fuel, most likely in Maiduguri, might be more expensive than it is in Lagos. Why? Because you have to pay for the transportation. Shawarma on the island is more expensive than it is on the mainland. So if you are doing makeup, for those of us who are doing makeup in the house, you are doing makeup in Egbeda, people might not be willing to pay more than 5K or 7K. But by the time you come to the island, that same 5K or 7K makeup that you're doing, you can charge 20K for it, and people would pay happily and thank you for it, right? So you might also want to consider the place where you're selling or where you put up your tent. Is that the correct place? Is that where you are going to get, the highest value for it, right? Okay, so there are many other tactics, many other things that you can do that would enable you price your products in such a way that will help you to accomplish your goals. So all you just need to do is think it through. Think it through. You might want to study a bit more on pricing, right? So that we get to that micro level, which I talked about earlier. Understand your business at that micro level. And it's like you having a console where if you push one button, you know the effect that it's going to have. If you push another button, you know the effect it's going to have. If you're able to get to that level of nitty-gritty with your business at that point, you know that, yes, you're getting something right. So, are there any questions? Any questions? Any questions before we round up?
Okay, any questions in the house tonight? Or everything is very clear? I know Mr. Davis is an amazing teacher, so I'm sure it has been well broken down and things are very clear. But if you have a question, you can have time for one or two. So we can call it a night. Anyone? Okay. Thank you very much, sir, for the time spent. I mean, it's been a very detailed class on pricing. I didn't know about your essential experiences tonight, so I got to know you better tonight.
Sorry, I'm not even hearing. Sorry.
Okay, I was saying thank you very much for your time, and I was saying that I didn't know about your essential experience until tonight. So I guess I also got to know a little more about you tonight as well. Thanks so much. It's been an amazing class. Learning on pricing. And I can see a number of people are also dropping their thanks. Thanks a million. Thanks for the insights.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thanks everyone for coming out tonight. We'll drop the link to the video on the WhatsApp group as usual for us to be able to listen again and again to it. I think that's important. Many times we feel we understand, but when we hear it again, we realize that we do not even understand. So we'll drop the links on the WhatsApp group. Thanks everyone. Have a lovely night. See you around.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.